Especially within the NFC East, as Pennsylvania native and Cowboys star Micah Parsons said this about his team entering the offseason. Listen to this. Obviously, talent is here, but we've just got to finish and go be aggressive the same way they did. I don't want to sit back and just watch other people build, and we stay the same. So we definitely need some call to action. Now, the Cowboys haven't made big offseason splashes recently. Look at this. This surprised me. Their biggest free agent signing over the last 5 seasons, guys, was Gerald McCoy's 3-year, $18 million deal in 2020. Otherwise, their largest deals were for 1 year, worth less than $5 million. The biggest trade they've made in that span was for wide receiver Brandon Cooks, who has averaged 36 receiving yards per game in his 2 seasons with the team. So, with all of that, Mina, what should be the Cowboys' biggest priority in the offseason?
Yeah, in the past, the Cowboys' approach has just been to pay their own, but pay them too late. I would not make that mistake with Micah Parsons. First, you got to restructure Dak Prescott's contract. That obviously $90 million cap hit isn't going to stick around. And then with that flexibility you gain, you sign Micah Parsons to the biggest deal that any edge rusher has ever signed. Now, I do think that, to his point, they need to be active in finding a receiver. Obviously, they need to get better running the football and stopping the run. I imagine that'll be a priority in the draft. But priority number 1 is number 11, who is one of the 3 best defensive players in the NFL, in my estimation.
Yeah, and a lot of people, Mina, would tell you that the Eagles are one of the teams that really knows how to press the advantage on going to their star players early for contract extensions, and obviously the Cowboys have not done that. So Micah Parsons, getting him under contract long-term is a priority. In terms of their own free agents to re-sign, nothing gigantic. Jordan Lewis, a cornerback, Oso Odigizua, a couple of guys that they might look to re-sign. But, of course, they're on defense, and they have a new defensive coordinator, so we'll see how that all shakes out. But the Cowboys, in terms of free agency, I think the sense I get is that they've heard what people have said, that they probably believe there's a happy medium somewhere between going nuts in free agency, which they don't believe is the right way to build a roster, and doing pretty much nothing, which is what they did last year. So I do think you'll see them go out, maybe add to the offensive and defensive lines, and definitely add another wide receiver.
Some advice, too. You can't say in the offseason we're all in. Because you said that last year. You send a message to the entire fan base,
say whatever you want,
and then you're not all in. So that's one thing. Don't set up the fan base by, hey, we're all in. You get everybody excited, and then you don't do anything of relevance.
Yeah, I think the big thing is, we talked about being nuts. Being nuts or going nuts would be not paying Micah Parsons first, not getting that deal done. I agree with Mina wholeheartedly. He's not only the leader on the field, but off the field, he's a guy that's championed the Dallas Cowboys every opportunity he gets a chance to speak. And then I think you go out and you try to talk to John Lynch about acquiring Deebo Samuel, talking to him, will you be in shape? What do you want to do? How do you want to fit into this offense? And now that's a guy that can play running back, a guy that can play receiver, somebody that can be a number 2 and a chess piece off of CeeDee Lamb. And then when you get into the draft, this gives you flexibility of whether you want to pick someone that helps you run the football or someone that helps you stop the run. For years, Mina and I, Marcus, Dan, we've talked about the fact that they can't stop the run. Not built well at linebacker, not built well in the middle of that defense from a defensive tackle perspective, even though you addressed it a couple of years ago in the draft. So if you go get Deebo Samuel, now you build your offense around Dak, and CeeDee Lamb, and maybe you can find a way to stop the run in the middle of the field defensively early in the draft.
Another conversation, too, in this division. It's always been the Cowboys and somebody else, right? Especially the last decade. Now it's the Eagles and Commanders and the Cowboys. So keep that in mind on how that develops here in the offseason leading into what they plan on doing.
It just didn't happen. The Eagles were the much better team. So with that being said, let's get right into the 6-pack. Topic number 1. What do you think the biggest difference for the Eagles was with their Super Bowl win over the Chiefs this year?
Ty, I'm going to tell you, I learned something during the Super Bowl. We're always learning. But we usually talk in the media, me especially, about the importance of coaches and quarterbacks. And we always say, okay, usually the team with the best coach and the best quarterback usually wins. Andy Reid is going to go down as one of the greatest coaches in NFL history. Patrick Mahomes is going to go down as one of the greatest with the chance to become the greatest quarterback in NFL history. And yet, we didn't talk enough about what football really is, which is a game of big men.
Another year, another offseason filled with rumors, and once again, the Cowboys front office seems to be more about talk than action. You know that feeling when you were a kid watching toy commercials, dreaming about getting one, only for your parents to say, we'll see? That's what being a Cowboys fan feels like every free agency. And we all know why. Stephen Jones, the ultimate bargain hunter. Seriously, the guy treats the Cowboys budget like he's Julius from Everybody Hates Chris. That's $2 million worth of cap space we don't need to spend. But what about this year? Will the Cowboys finally make a move, or are we stuck window shopping again? Drop a comment Do you think Dallas will actually invest in free agency? Or will it be another offseason of cheap deals and missed opportunities? And speaking of potential moves, let's talk about one name linked to the Cowboys, Will Hernandez. One of the biggest concerns for the Cowboys heading into the offseason, the offensive line. And a name that keeps popping up as a potential solution is Will Hernandez. Now, there's an interesting connection here. Clayton Adams, the Cowboys' new offensive line coach, worked with Hernandez back in Arizona. That familiarity could make the transition smoother if Dallas decides to bring him in. But here's the catch. Hernandez is coming off a knee injury, and we've seen how that played out with Terrence Steele. Do we really want to roll the dice on another lineman recovering from an injury? Of course, there's always the Stephen Jones factor. A player with injury concerns? Sounds like a bargain deal waiting to happen. If the price is right, Hernandez could be a solid addition. But should the Cowboys take the risk, or should they trust Brock Hoffman to step up? Let's hear from you. Would you take a chance on Will Hernandez, or should Dallas look elsewhere? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Now, if the Cowboys are looking to make a splash, there's a big name wide receiver that's been linked to them, Tyler Lockett. Now, this is where things get interesting. Tyler Lockett, the longtime Seahawks star, has been linked to the Cowboys. And there's one big reason why this rumor makes sense. Brian Schottenheimer. Schottenheimer, now the Cowboys' offensive coordinator, was Lockett's OC in Seattle. That kind of familiarity could make a transition to Dallas seamless. But is Lockett really the right move? Here's the concern. His production is starting to decline. Last season, his numbers weren't what we're used to seeing. And at 31 years old, you have to wonder if we be getting the Lockett of old, or just an old Lockett. And if the Cowboys want a veteran WR, why not just stick with Brandon Cooks? Their numbers are comparable, and Cooks already has chemistry with Dak. So does adding Lockett really make sense? Or should Dallas look for a younger, more explosive receiver in the draft instead? What do you think? Is Lockett worth the investment, or should the Cowboys go after someone with more upside? Let me know in the comments. Of course, Lockett isn't the only WR being linked to Dallas, but some of these rumors just don't add up. Every offseason, big-name wide receivers get linked to the Cowboys. And this year is no different. Stephon Diggs, Cooper Kupp, sounds exciting. But let's be real for a second. Stephon Diggs is still a great player, but he's turning 31 soon. Not only that, but his attitude in Buffalo has raised some red flags. Do the Cowboys really want to invest heavily in a receiver who could bring drama to the locker room? Then there's Cooper Kupp. Now, if we're talking about veteran WRs, he's probably the only one that could make some sense when healthy. But that's the issue. Injuries have taken a toll, and the last thing the Cowboys need is another aging star who can't stay on the field. Dallas needs playmakers, but they have to be smart about it. Blowing money on veterans past their prime isn't the answer. So tell me, would you rather see the Cowboys take a shot on a proven veteran, or go after a young, explosive talent in the draft? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And speaking of decisions, what can we actually expect from the Cowboys this offseason? So what's next? The Cowboys have some real opportunities to improve this roster, but will they finally take action? Or are we in for another offseason of bargain shopping? Every year it feels like the same debate. Will the front office take a bold step and bring in real difference makers? Or will they play it safe with budget-friendly moves? The fans deserve to see a team that's truly built to compete, not just good enough to make the playoffs. What do you think? Should the Cowboys finally go all in on a big signing, or is smart spending still the way to go? Let me know in the comments. And if you don't want to miss a single move this offseason, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for all the latest Cowboys updates.